Every 10 minutes, someone, somewhere, takes a step that changes everything. A decision, a pause, a breath. And just like that, their story is never the same again. Most of the time, we think of people, of jobs left behind, addictions broken, lives rebuilt. But what if I told you the most remarkable transformation didn't belong to a person at all? What if the most inspiring change you'll witness today came from a dog? A dog that was never meant to survive, born behind closed doors, raised in shadows, not trained to sit or fetch or stay, but to hurt, to win, or to die. They called him Max, and for years his world was cold cement, the sound of chains and the scent of blood. No one looked at him and saw hope. No one believed he could be anything else. But they were wrong, because in the most unexpected moment, one that lasted barely 10 minutes, Max made a choice. Not instinct, not obedience, a choice. And that one act rewrote everything. This is not a fairy tale, it's a true account. Archived in police records, buried in shelter footage, remembered by the few who witnessed it. This is the story of how one broken animal transformed not just his own fate, but the lives of dozens around him. And it begins in the last place you'd ever expect to find hope. A rusted gate, a padlock, and silence, until the barking stopped. Forever. What do you believe shapes a soul? Is it bloodline, environment, the pain we endure, or something else, something unexplainable that refuses to be broken? We've told stories of men who lost everything and came back stronger. We've shared tales of women who walked through fire and came out radiant. But tonight, we ask you to look deeper, into the eyes of an animal, discarded, damaged, forgotten, and ask yourself, can a creature conditioned for violence ever learn to love? Do animals, like us, carry ghosts? Do they remember, regret, redeem? Let us know what you believe. Right now, scroll down. Drop your thoughts in the comments, not for the algorithm, not for the views, but because someone else might need to read the hope you've seen before they face their own transformation. And when this story closes, when Max's fate is sealed and the final page is turned, don't walk away. Our next tale waits in the cold silence of the forest. The Last Howl, a story that asks one haunting question. What happens when the only voice left is the one we never listened to? But for now, stay with us, because Max's journey is just beginning, and the next 10 minutes will leave you changed. This is the story of Max, a name given to him by the ones who found him, long after he stopped answering to anything. Before that, he had no name, no home, no gentle touch. Just one command: survive. Max was a street dog, but not the kind that roamed parks or begged for scraps. His world was underground. Crates, wires, blood-stained sawdust. The kind of place people pretend doesn't exist, because if they look too long, they might see themselves reflected in the pain. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a tool, a weapon. Raised for brutality, rewarded for violence, cheered every time he tore another soul apart. And when he lost, they left him to rot. But Max didn't die. Something inside him refused, and in just 10 minutes, less time than it takes to eat lunch, scroll through your feed, or walk a city block, Max made a choice that rewrote his destiny. A choice no one expected, a moment no one saw coming, and a sacrifice that still echoes in the walls of a place no longer there. What led up to that moment? What built the monster, and what tore it down? Stay with us, because the answer will both haunt you and inspire you. Change, it sounds noble, hopeful, but the truth? Whether you walk on 2 legs or 4, change is terrifying. We stay where it hurts, because the pain we know feels safer than the unknown we don't. That was Max. A body covered in scar tissue, ribs like jagged shadows beneath thinning fur. One ear half torn, one eye glazed from the fights he never chose, but was forced to survive. Max lived behind a boarded-up house, on the edge of a neighborhood most people drove through without stopping. The house itself, once a home, now a ghost. Windows blacked out with cardboard, the porch sagging under the weight of secrets, rusted folding chairs, broken coolers, a collapsed kiddie pool in the yard, half full of rainwater and cigarette butts. Inside, it was worse. Blood in the floorboards, scratches in the walls, chains bolted to concrete, the faint scent of bleach, failing to erase what happened the night before. This was an illegal dogfighting ring, run by men who never used names, who spoke in code, who didn't flinch when a life ended in the center of a blood-stained mattress they called the pit. They used meth, they sold heroin, but more than anything, they trafficked pain for profit. Max wasn't the worst of them. He wasn't the biggest, but he had one thing that made him valuable. He didn't quit. He had been electroshocked when he hesitated, beaten with a tire iron when he lost, starved for 3 days before a match to make him meaner. And after each fight, if he lived, he was dragged back into a rusted cage with a meat hook welded onto the latch, so no one had to touch him. He wasn't a dog anymore. He was a product. The locals whispered. They heard the growling at night. They found fur clumps near the drains. But no one reported it. No one wanted to get involved. Because once you saw inside that house, you didn't sleep right again. No one believed a dog like Max could be anything more than a weapon, broken, doomed, forgotten. But destiny doesn't care about origin stories, and Max was already planning his escape. Not just from the cage, from what they made him become. Max wasn't born a monster. He was found, a shivering pup, hidden behind a dumpster off 8th and Iron Street. Still small enough to fit in a backpack. Still innocent enough to trust the wrong hands. They took him in, and from that moment, the noise never stopped. Barking, screaming, engines revving, men shouting. Every night, Max slept next to a generator, wrapped in old towels soaked in gasoline and spit. The only hands that touched him were heavy and fast. The only affection he knew was when someone threw meat near his cage, still raw, still dripping. He learned quickly. Obedience was survival. Bite first, never back down. Blood meant you were still alive. And in that world, Max earned a reputation. They called him Grave Dog, because once he locked in, the other dog didn't stand up again. But here's the truth about trauma. It doesn't just kill kindness. It buries it alive, deep, quiet, waiting. Like many of us, Max was forced to become what others expected. The aggressive one, the hardened one, the survivor. But beneath that armor, under the muscle, the madness, the instinct, the real Max was still in there. Then came the night it all fell apart. A tip-off, an unmarked cruiser, a failed raid. The cops came too late. Most of the crew was gone before the sirens even reached the street. No arrests, no justice. Just echoes, and Max. They found him in the basement, still chained, his legs covered in cuts, one eye swollen shut, surrounded by the silence of a place that had fed on screams for too long. No growling, no lunging. He didn't even lift his head when the flashlight found him. Just stillness. Like a soldier left behind in a war that never ended. The officer who found him paused, even whispered, "Jesus." And in that moment, brief, fragile, human, something passed between them. A flicker, a connection. That maybe this wasn't just a dog. Maybe this was a being, waiting for someone to see him. They carried him out like evidence, but Max, he wasn't done writing his story. They didn't know what to do with him. The file said aggressive. The scars said dangerous. The cage said leave him. But sometimes, fate sends the right person at the wrong time. for a reason. Eli Carter was a retired firefighter. 25 years on the line. He'd seen it all: burning homes, overdoses, flood rescues, even pulling bodies from rubble. But after losing his wife, he started spending weekends volunteering at animal control. He wasn't looking for a project. He wasn't trying to save anyone, just trying to feel useful again. That day they told him, "Don't go near cage 9. Said the dog was unpredictable. Said he'd been through hell and brought pieces of it back with him. But Eli didn't see a monster. Max didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just lifted his head and wagged his tail. Just once. Small. Barely noticeable. But enough. 10 minutes. That's all it took. 10 minutes of stillness, of eye contact, of breathing the same air. And then that sound was the end of a lifetime. Max didn't bolt. He didn't attack. He stood, shaky, gaunt, and walked, not ran, toward Eli. In that moment, two broken things found each other and chose to walk forward. 10 minutes, that's all it took. For Eli to see a soul, not a statistic. For Max to trust again. For the weight of a chain, years in the making, to finally fall away. Freedom doesn't feel free when you've never known it. To some, an open field is peace. To Max, it was a trap without walls. The first few days were quiet. Too quiet. He flinched at the sight of hands. Wouldn't eat if someone watched him. Slept with his eyes half open. And never turned his back to the door. The sound of boots on hardwood made him crouch. Rain tapping the windows sent him pacing. The metallic rattle of keys? He'd disappear under the porch for hours. Trauma doesn't fade with time. It echoes. And sometimes the loudest ghosts are the quietest ones. Eli never forced it. No collars, no loud commands, no fast moves. Just space, routine, presence, and a single rule. No matter how bad the day was, the door stayed open. Healing isn't fast. It's not cinematic. It's daily, slow, repetitive. But each day, Max leaned in, 1 inch closer, 1 second longer, 1 moment braver. Then, a breakthrough. It was 2:13 a.m., thunder outside. A loud crack, and Eli shot upright, startled. So did Max. But instead of running, he placed his paw on the couch cushion. One paw, quiet, but clear. "I'm still scared, but I'm staying." That moment didn't make headlines. It didn't go viral. But it was the first time Max chose to trust. And that made it monumental. But something else watched too. Behind those woods, there were things even Max hadn't unlearned to fear, because while Max was recovering, someone else was remembering. It was 4:42 a.m. The shelter's overnight security camera flickered once, then again, and then it cut out. No one saw what happened next, but someone felt it. Max didn't bark. He never barked unless it mattered. Instead, he stood, stared down the dark corridor. The air felt different. He stepped forward, 1 step, then 2. The smell hit him first, smoke. The fire alarms stayed silent. Wiring fault, they later said, but Max didn't wait. Max growled once, then sprinted for the kennel doors. Eli followed without thinking. They got out seconds before the back hallway collapsed. 27 dogs were saved that night, because of one. For the first time, Max wasn't just surviving, he was protecting, and it was only the beginning. After evaluations and temperament tests, Max was officially certified as an emotional support animal. He worked with veterans, fire survivors, victims of domestic abuse. No one had to explain their pain. Max knew it before they did. His presence said, "You're not broken, just breathing through the burn." But not everyone was proud of Max's second chance. A man named Griggs had filed to adopt a lost dog from the system. Griggs wasn't just anyone. He was the man who chained Max behind that meth house, the one who'd made money on blood. and he wanted Max back. They didn't ask for directions. They walked straight toward the kennel. One of them called Max's name, but Max didn't come. He stood in the doorway, his ears back, his stance low and wide, blocking Eli. They told Eli the dog was theirs. They showed a photo, Max as a pup, jaw bloodied. Eli didn't flinch. He stood behind Max. Max didn't move, and that day, neither did the men. The shelter got a restraining order. The men were charged, but rumors spread. Griggs wasn't working alone. The dog fighting circuit wasn't dead, it was dormant. And Max had become a symbol they didn't forget. Max never saw himself as a hero, but every day he showed others what it meant to rise. And each night he slept near Eli's door. Not out of fear, but readiness. Because even when you escape your past, you never forget what it looks like in the dark. The story of Max was everywhere. From underground dogfights to local hero, his journey captivated hearts across the city. His image splashed on screens, his name whispered like a miracle. Max wasn't just a survivor. He was a symbol of what happens when courage outlasts cruelty. Together, Eli and Max visited schools, not to teach obedience, but resilience, kindness. "What happened to you, Max?" a girl asked softly. Eli smiled. He was trapped in darkness, but he never stopped hoping. "Sometimes," Eli said, "life hits hard. Sometimes it tries to break us. But like Max, we have the power to change, to heal, to grow." The world loved a good redemption story, but beneath the applause, the shadow of Max's past lurked. Max's behavior began to shift. Restlessness replaced calm. His ears pricked at every distant sound. Eli noticed the change, but wrote it off to stress. Too many public appearances. But Max was remembering. Not just the pain, the danger, messages, warnings. The past wasn't done with Max. The dogfighting ring was sending a message. "It's okay, boy," Eli whispered. "We're together now." But some battles don't end with heroism. Some fight to the last breath. And for Max and Eli, the next chapter was just beginning. Max's journey sparked more than hearts. It ignited change in the halls of power. For years, the dogfighting rings operated in shadows, exploiting silence and fear. But the public outcry inspired lawmakers to act. Stricter laws were enacted, making dogfighting a felony with harsher penalties. Prosecutions increased. Shelters received more funding. The cruel underworld Max escaped began to shrink. But Eli knew the fight wasn't over. So he founded Second Chance Paws, a refuge for dogs like Max. A sanctuary where healing was more than physical. It was soul deep. The foundation offered hope to the forgotten, rescued fighters, abused strays, lost souls. With every dog saved, Max's legacy grew. But the past isn't always ready to stay buried. The scars run deeper than the surface, and sometimes they whisper in the dark. New threats surfaced, an underground resurgence, more secretive and brutal. Those who never wanted Max's story told were still watching, waiting. Max sensed it, the flicker of danger that never truly left. But now, he wasn't alone. Max's story had become a symbol, not just of survival, but of transformation. A testament to the power of hope, healing, and relentless courage. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every step forward is a victory worth fighting for. If a dog, born into violence and trained to fight, can choose trust. If Max, scarred, chained, abandoned, can transform his life in just 10 minutes, then what truly is stopping you? We all carry chains, some visible, some invisible. Fear, doubt, pain, the weight of what was, the shadow of what might be. But chains are meant to be broken. The past does not define the future. It does not dictate who you must be. Max was not born a hero. He chose it. Transformation is not a gift, reserved for the lucky or the strong. It is a choice, a moment of courage, a refusal to be broken. And anyone, no matter how lost or broken, can be someone's miracle. The light in the dark, the hand that pulls another up. When fear whispers that change is impossible, remember Max. Remember the dog who found hope when all seemed lost. And remember, your transformation can start in 10 minutes. What will you choose? Will you stay chained to the past, or take that step into the unknown? The moment is yours. The question is, are you ready to break free? Max died peacefully 3 years later. A medal hung proudly around his neck, a silent testament to the journey from darkness to light. And Eli, by his side until the very end. But Max's story didn't end there. It lives on, in the laws that protect the vulnerable, in the classrooms where children learn kindness, and in the hearts of every person who chooses hope over fear. The chains he broke are more than metal and rope. They are the chains of doubt, pain, and fear. Chains we all carry in some form. If Max could transform his life in just 10 minutes, if a dog raised in violence could find trust, love, and purpose, then so can you. Your moment is waiting. What will you do with it? If this story touched something deep inside you, share it. Because someone you know, somewhere out there, might need to hear it more than you realize. And when you're ready, watch our next episode, The Last Howl, the story of a wolf who taught an entire town what it truly means to be brave.